What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Pod Scum. I am, of course, your host, Reckless Rex Ruger, a.k.a. Diamond David Lee Roth Jr., a.k.a. the son of glam, the front man for the band, adored by the fans, Mr. Wop Bop Loo Bop Wop Bam Bam Shazam Hot Damn. We got ourselves a good one today. Welcome to another episode of Pod Scum. I'm excited, man. Glad to be back doing my passion. As you know, did off-the-couch boxing on our channel for a while. As you can see, still got the decor, but that will soon be changing. We're back in full swing with Pod Scum and a great guest today, man. I'm excited. Let's get into it and chop it up with a man. Let's do it. No wasting time. And as we wait, we will wait. Oh, of course, let me introduce the Freddie Mercury puppet. As you can see, teeth in full effect. Meant to point him out during the last episode and dogged him, more or less, shunned him, ignored him. But yeah, he's been many puppets, and now he is the Freddie Mercury puppet. He's gone from Keith Hernandez to Alexis Arguello to now Freddie Mercury. Hey, he's got to be somebody. I can't roll without him. You know what I mean? It's not to be. And while we wait for our guest to get in here, un momento. This is when I wish I had the Jeopardy theme song playing, or some kind of theme song playing. It's almost anticlimactic waiting like this. But yes. Craig,
hey, man.
There you are. 49ers hat, huh?
Yeah, okay. Allow. Yes.
How are you,
yeah,
40?
I got.
How are your 49ers going to do this year?
This was my 30th year of season tickets.
Okay.
So I've made the conscious decision not make any kind of prognostications.
Yeah, that's probably a smart idea. You got to be pretty speculative when it comes to sports. Yeah. I am
Yeah,
a long-suffering Giants fan, so I'm a long-suffering Giants fan, so I've just decided to throw in the towel already.
It is a little rough for the Giants. Hey, let me ask you, am I okay going vertical, or do you need me to go horizontal?
Whatever works best for you, man. Yeah, whatever works best for you.
I'm
You're obviously
like
you obviously encompass a little more when you're vertical, man, but it doesn't matter. Yeah.
Well, I can get like yours, but I might have to wrestle with the the camera stand tends to
no, that's all right, man. Yeah, you're good the way you're just coming in a little grainy and choppy right now, but that just might be our connection.
Oh, really? That's not good.
Yeah.
I shouldn't
getting a little pixelated. Getting a little pixelated or whatever, but
let me see if I can move this to the other room and see if it's better for you. But I won't.
Sure, give it a shot. Yeah, give it a shot.
All right, let me see. Yeah, it's not going to be nearly as good of a light. It's going to be. I'm trying to keep the house closed up here today. It's pretty.
Why is it hot? Is it really hot? Atrociously hot there?
No, it's 90. I mean, it gets really hot in the house because we don't have air conditioning. Purposefully.
Purposefully, huh?
So on the go. What is this? On the go? What the fuck does that mean? Not now. Stop suggesting on the go. Yes. Fuck, you're on the go. Okay. How's that? I work all right for you?
Well, yeah. Now now I don't see you moving at all.
Oh, really?
There you go.
All right.
Yeah.
Good. Could be good.
Yeah. Now you're back in there. Now you're back in there. You're just frozen right now. You're just not moving at all.
Still not moving?
No.
Huh. Let's try this again.
Go out and come back in. Yeah, go out and come back in. Yeah, try that. As you can see, folks, Craig LoCicero and I, in my mind, a big part of that Bay Area thrash scene and a legend. And we're trying to work it out. Right? That's all we're trying to do.
All right. How's that?
And we will work it out. Technical dip. There's no crying in podcasting.
Is it working? Am I back?
Yeah.
Let's do this.
Yes. Yeah, you are back. And you are back in a huge way, man, because thank God Forbidden is back.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, it is kind of crazy, man. Does it still have the same, because it is your baby, man. It is the band that you've been in, since its inception, man. Is it as great the second time around?
This will be the third time around, because let's be
Third time
honest here,
around.
because we started this in 2008, and that was with, Four Fists of Forbidden Evil lineup. And
Right.
that didn't last as long as I wanted it to with the lineup. There's obviously shit. It's funny. We're always like, you should put your band back together with all these rich cats. Like, everyone goes different directions in life. It's like you can't, and you think it's going to work, and then and that's what happened with
You're
Rexx.
getting really, dude. I gotta stop you, man. You're getting really pixelated and freezing up, and your voice is getting really, really garbled.
I have no idea why, because I've got my phone says I'm at full strength. Everything.
Yeah, I know. I don't understand why either. So am I.
I'm literally like as good of I got as good a signal as you can get. You can't get any better.
Yeah, I do too. That's why I was just looking to see if it was on my end or not too. But
It's good.
yeah, I look like I'm. Yeah, I look like I'm pretty good too, man. But like you're freezing a lot and getting pixelated, and you're getting stuck, and and the audio is kind of garbled too.
Well, that's too bad, because it's so far so good. Do you want me to try one time? We're not live, right? We're not live, right?
No, we're not live. No. That's why I'm talking to you like this. No, we're definitely not live. No.
Okay. Let me try one time to come back to this list, and then I'll read in a minute.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay. Folks, this is what it's all about right here, man. And you see it, warts and all. As you know, going back to the previous time when I did PodScum, no editing. I can't be bothered with it. No editing. What you see is what you get, man. You just get to see more of two men of a certain age struggling with technology. Obviously, Craig is in that same age bracket as me. I don't know if he wants me to divulge his age, but me being 51, there he is.
All right, let's try that all over again.
Yeah, let's
How's
try
that.
Take 3.
All right.
I mean, what are you going to do, man? You're at the mercy of technology, man. I've learned this from doing so many podcast episodes, but now you seem to look pretty clear. So we were talking about the third time around, man. If it still has the same luster, the same passion, I mean, are you still, does it still hold that same zest for you?
More so this time. Because what I was getting into, you said the second time and I said the third time, because we had all 450 the original lineup, and that people go in different directions in life. People aren't the same. I'm not the same. Everyone's changed a little bit, and we tried it. And without getting into the weeds, with Russ, it was just he was starting to really not enjoy being on the road. The alcohol. Needing to be, buzzed all the time. It started to really wear on him. So that's why we ended up ending it in 2012, because he's like, he wasn't enjoying traveling. He wasn't at his best. He wasn't feeling his best. So then years later, he, without him, it only became because Russ reached out to me for help with the alcohol problems. I hadn't heard from him in a couple of years. And he's like, hey man, I need some help. And I went and saw him, and myself and Mark Hernandez and a few other guys. Mark was our drummer previously, who had also has serious alcohol issues. So Mark, I talked to Russ. I went and visited him, and then we reached out to some folks that we knew that had some rehab, and it saved Russ's life. But he was not interested in doing any of this ever again. Like, he's in a completely different world right now, trying to stay sober. So,
did he view music as kind of a trigger for the alcoholism?
You'd have to ask him specifically, but I believe that he viewed everything as a gateway for his weak, willpower.
Yeah.
He didn't have the strongest willpower, and a lot of people do. It's hard to fucking stay sober on the road.
Yeah.
And if you're a real alcoholic, it's fucking challenging as shit. So
off the road is hard. Yeah.
To answer your question, now that you kind of have that fast background, it actually feels better than it felt at any point in 2008 to 2012, because everybody is fully invested in it. and you know, my original guy Matt is you know, he's the guy who was in since 1986. He's better than he's ever been on bass, and kind of crazily, after giving it up for a few years, he came back and found this crazy passion. Now he's incredibly good, solid, plays his fingers all the time, and
Yeah.
it's just wild, like what we have. You know, the lineup's great. Norman is the perfect guy to take over for Russ because he's not trying to be Russ at
Right.
all. He's just a
Yeah.
great front man in his own, similar to when Dickinson took over for Deanna or something. It's just,
Right.
and that's kind of how people react to it. You know, if there was any skepticism, it kind of ends after the first line of the first song that he sings. You know, you're like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
he's not trying to be Russ, but man, he's good.
This makes
You know,
sense. Yeah.
yeah, it makes sense, and that's where we are. And having Chris Contos there, you know, massive fucking talent, legacy in metal and punk, you know, and now Chewy aboard, you know, from Voivod. It's just, this is my dream band right now. It's like, this is fucking what I was hoping for, you know.
Yeah.
So I'm
So
pretty
obviously,
happy with it.
so obviously, Steve, you know, I've had him on as well. Obviously, he chose to focus more on one machine then right now.
Yes, and totally respectably so. But I mean, there's more than that with Steve. He had been through so much. You know, the loss of his wife was incredibly hard on him. And when we first got him in the band, or back when I first approached him, it was perfect timing for him to take his mind off of that and focus it elsewhere. And then I just think that over the year and a half that we were playing, or a year and some odd months, we all could sense that he was kind of drifting and not really able to focus as much because he had so many other things going on in his heart and his head.
Yeah.
So that's why I approached him, and I actually approached him and said, "You want to just take the couple months off and come back after some time?" And
Right.
and he chose, well, and this is big boy decisions. You know, people are like, he's crazy. I'm like, no, he's doing what's right for him.
Yeah.
Big boy decision for him was, I started this band. These guys have been waiting for me. I'm just going to concentrate on that and work on my personal stuff. So I completely get that and respect it. And I was like, yeah, I mean, I love Steve, and you never say never to ever, you know, the possibility of reconnecting at some point. But right now, he's happy and we're happy, and I shouldn't say. I think he's not happy because I think it's going to be a long time before he's happy.
Right.
But I think he's in a better place, and it's not as much to concentrate on Forbidden on top of everything else, because there's a lot of demands for us, and we don't settle for half a guy. We need an all guy, you know, like 100% of them.
So I think what people would probably really want to know, and you may have talked about this in other interviews, but so what is the game plan going? We lost Craig. I'm sure he will be right back in though. Right when I was on the precipice of asking a question too. That's poetic timing right there. But Craig's connection though, splendid right now. So that's fantastic. He probably hit something, accidentally hung up, or our connection was interrupted, man. But stay with us, folks. I know this one's been choppy at the beginning, but it's going to get so much better, man, because I got a lot to dive into with Mr. LoCicero here. So we seem to have the technical difficulties issued out, or I mean, technical issues ironed out, I should say. Lost you there for a minute.
That was a hard drop. You were right in the middle of a sentence. So
and I was like, shit, now we finally got the connection. Is really rolling now.
Yeah, and my phone says I'm good. But anyway, so people, you were asking, people might have asked me.
Yeah. So where Forbidden is headed with new music, and what the creative process is like, because you are really the only static member currently in the band right now, man. Is the creative process going to be democratic? Is it collaborative? Are you writing most of the stuff? Because I obviously you guys are. I mean, it makes sense that you guys are probably doing the new material.
I think you everything you said is yes. Like yes, I do most of the stuff. Yes, it's democratic. Yes, we still work together on things, but you know, I'm always going to be the catalyst for Forbidden songs, and I was the catalyst for 90% of them throughout our entire career. You know, sometimes somebody will have something great, and we just pull that in and push it into the pot. You know, if it sounds like Forbidden, that's what I'm interested in. It's got to just have it. We have our own language, and it's a little different than our peers. You know, we're a little we zig when some zag, and that's part of what makes Forbidden unique, you know. And I'm really looking forward to I've already been writing a bunch. I mean, I got the beginning for about 6 or 7 songs, and when I say the beginning, I mean the skeleton's there, but we got to put all the meat on it.
Right.
and I work really closely on lyrics. I've always written the majority of the lyrics, so I'll be doing the same thing with Norm, and I work with melodies. So with him and I will be working on that while the rest of us are working on music. I work with Chris on arranging, and then Matt will be there. And with Chewy in the project right now, you know, we even talked yesterday. We're at the same spot. Like, we agree that we want to write music together because we have incredible chemistry as a guitar team, him and I. I mean, it's just wild. You can see it on any tape or any video of any show. You can see, like, okay, this is crazy. So we're gonna write music together. I'm gonna send him music. He's gonna add his ideas if he wants to send me anything. Do the album together, and then just see where it all lands later. Because I know he's got Voivod.
Yeah.
And I also know that I don't want Forbidden to be a slave to just being busy to be busy. I want to only do shows that matter most to us, and I want to, you know, which is going to be sad to some folks to hear that. You know, there's like, fuck, you're not playing Wichita. Like, I'm sorry. You know, I just don't see it in today's world that it's feasible to play every smaller market unless it's affordable.
Right.
And you just have to live in that reality, or else you're going to end up getting burned out and giving up sooner than you should. So if you want special, that's what we're going to give you. If you just want us, it's probably not going to be what's going to happen.
I think it makes the average fan, though, man, like kind of feel that animosity too, man, because as you say, it is an economical thing. And then, you know, it seems like the ticket prices get jacked up. Now, like now it seems like anybody with any type of reputation, you can't see for under a certain amount of money. You know, I mean, it's crazy.
Well, there's, you know, being on this side of the business, and we don't really need it. People get bored when they hear about this, or they start groaning and say, "Oh, you don't know, you have it all. You don't understand." Like, no, man, there's an overhead. You know, there's everything. You know, not including what your life expenses are. There's just an overhead to even being in a band, having a studio, taking care of, you know, month to month, everything.
Yeah.
And, you know, let alone recording and flying somewhere, and, you know, traveling in a bus is impossible now with the amount of money that it costs. You're just going to, it's just a huge money pit. So to me, in the year 2024 and 2025, and in the foreseeable future, you have to put the music first, and certain shows that are special, you aim for those. Because otherwise you're trying to hit a mark that's going to definitely be the death knell of your band, just because you're trying to do too much. You're trying to take care of things the way they used to be, and it's like trying to shove a square peg into a round hole. It's like there's just, it doesn't exist like that anymore. So you have to be acutely aware of the difference in the world today musically in this business, and that bums people out, like, you know, because they want your songs for free off the internet. They want to go to your show for, you know, under $30. They want, you know, your shirt should be cheap, everything. It's like, well, then you just don't really want your bands. But at the same time, economics, it's tough. Post-COVID world is more expensive than the world pre-COVID. It's not going to really get much cheaper. You know, prices aren't really going to go down, and that's because the guys at the top of the food chain are going to make sure that everything is still benefiting them.
Top heavy.
And we are not at the top of the food chain here.
Right. Yeah, I know. It's already like a difficult genre to begin with economically. Right. You're not Bon Jovi. I mean,
and I also want to really make it clear that I'm not complaining or whining about any of this. It's just reality. I've kind of, you know, the reason why I've been able to survive in this business, a really good portion of the reason is because I don't get jaded, and I'm not like other folks, like other peers of mine. You know, they get really fucking mad and frustrated, and it takes a toll on them. And I keep young mentally, which keeps me young physically, right? So I don't dwell too much on what there isn't, and I focus more on what there is.
Well, it seems like a lot of the Bay Area guys, though, have seemed to found the fountain of youth. I mean, I saw that Bay Area Strikes Back tour last year, and all those guys are just playing. You know, a lot of the newer bands, man, the old school guys are playing them under the table, though. It's incredible.
It'll always be that way in thrash metal, and specifically because we are the ones that had the influences that actually bridged the gap.
Yeah.
And I think that there's young guys that are up and coming that are really good. but they can't. It's no fault of theirs, but they can't possibly pull from the same influences we did.
Right.
You know, we pulled from, you know, the Beatles and the Stones,
Right.
to the classic heavy rock, to the heavy metal, to the punk
Yeah.
rock. We pulled from all that naturally because it was what was introduced to us as we were growing up,
Right.
and that's where thrash metal came from. That, you know, and like nowadays you're just kind of trying to feel your way through and imitate that feeling, and sometimes some bands hit really hard and kick ass at it, like bands like Warbringer and Havoc and stuff like that, or Killer.
Yeah.
But even in them, unless they're old enough, you know, it's really hard. So, and another thing is, not only are they all my peers playing great, they, you know, the writing of a record is really, that's the telling part of it, you know, like your influence. I mean, and I can't speak for everyone else. I can tell you that the Forbidden approach to this record is going to be a lot more truly old school, and trying to keep it as live as possible, and not over tracking, not fixing things a whole bunch with Pro
Yeah.
Tools. Like
Yeah.
it's so tempting to have everything be perfect, and they call that the industry standard. But I say, when it comes to the records that last the longest and people keep coming back to, people like the hair on the record. They like the happy mistakes that they don't consider mistakes. They
Right.
consider it part of the magic of that record.
Yeah.
And I want to maintain that. And we did that on the Mega Wave. We actually did that. Because I was in charge of production, so I could do what I wanted, and I made sure that nothing was overtly fixed and corrected and, you know, made it to sound like all these other records. So now when you put it on, it's like it's a little dirtier. I
Yeah.
want it that way, you
Yeah.
know. And this record's going to be similar approach. But I'm only going to put, like, it's only going to be one guitar on either side and then some solos and overdubs in the middle, and that's what's going to happen. I'm not going to double track guitars. I don't want to do any of that shit. I really want it to be alive, like Forbidden Evil and Twisted and Forward.
You look back on those albums. I'm glad you brought Forbidden Evil up, though, and even you know, even Twisted into Form. Do you look back at those albums now and realize, you know, at the risk of sounding arrogant, though, you know, are you able to look at those and say, God, those are seminal albums in this scene that I'm a part of?
Yeah, a couple decades ago, I figured that out. But I'll tell you, I couldn't listen to Forbidden Evil for a long time because I really, uh, I wasn't there when the vocals were recorded. I was they neglected to pick me up that day, and this one guy who's not in the band anymore made that decision, and I just couldn't. You know, for years I was like, oh my god. But now when I listen to it, I'm like, Russ did all that in a day.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
pretty fucking amazing. Now, there's maybe some notes he hit that I would have been like, no, dude, let's, you know. But now I'm like, it's fucking killer because
Yeah.
it is what it is, and we were what we were. And I feel the same way about Twisted into Form, but I was there for every step of the way. Twisted into Form,
Yeah.
and I helped write a lot more lyrics. You know, I took over the lyrical content at that point and stuff. So, but I've always felt like the other guys before us were obviously the ones who deserve the most kudos for kind of, and that's, you know, that's why I do Enter Thrational. I'm part of that second generation, but I watched the first generation growing
Right.
up as 14 years old at Ruthie's Inn, you know, like I
Yeah.
was watching all that shit. And so I think that those guys are the dudes, and we're here to, you know, bridge the gap, you know, in our generation, which is, you know, us and Death Angel and Testament, we're part of that second generation. You can call them just a year before us in Violence too, but you know, what we do is just as important as what they do to a lot of these fans. But there's no doubt that the hierarchy will never change. It's always going to be Metallica, you know, Bay Area wise, Metallica, Testament, Exodus, and even though Exodus, people could argue, should be more popular, they're not, and they
Yeah.
never will be.
Yeah.
And then, you know, Death Angel and Forbidden, and then everyone else, and that's we're part of that. You know, I guess you can call the big four of successful. Did the touring, sold the albums.
Right.
You know, we were lucky enough to be at the tail end of that, and then everybody suffered later.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it will never really change. I've had this conversation with a few guys in the bands, you know, like, oh yeah, I can't wait till we, you know, get on top. I'm like, okay, like,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
just, you be glad that you're fucking being considered as
Yeah.
seminal, as you said, as
Yeah.
you are, you know. But I do got to say, I'll wiggle Forbidden a little bit of space here, because what we are melodically and the kind of vocals that we have, and you know, we're kind of a cross between real heavy metal and thrash metal, and always have had a great singer.
Yeah.
There is some room for us to make a leap over to a different side of it. But Forbidden was never that big. We just influenced a lot of influential bands,
Right.
you know. So I'm very well aware of where we are in the universe. And,
Yeah.
I'm just glad we have a little spot.
And if you can go back in time, you know, to the 90s when grunge really broke, man, you know, was there any point in time when collectively, you know, individually or collectively as a band, I mean, that would have been like, you know, post after Twisted into Form or whatever, where there was any pressure or you felt pressure to change your sound at all? Because obviously grunge was making a lot of, you know, once grunge kind of came to the party, it seemed like everybody was trying to like kind of change their sound a little bit.
Yeah, I think everybody kind of, it wasn't just grunge. It was grunge and Pantera and Sepultura,
Yeah,
and death metal. And I think I've never chased shit down, but I've been a fucking bit of a leader in that area where I was fearless in my journey of musical, you know, musical journey, whatever
yeah,
you want,
yeah,
however I want to put that. But my musical journey was pretty fearless, and when things did start changing, I was very aware of it, and I actually, when I heard Alice in Chains' facelift, or when I heard Soundgarden's Louder Than Love, I was like, these are great fucking records. I didn't look at it as
yeah.
grunge. Grunge wasn't a word. I'm like,
Right.
this is real rock, and it's less pretentious, and it's dirty, and it seems more live. You know, it was less anal, and
Yep.
I think thrash metal was getting very anal, and I think that every band started to have a formula, minus Slayer. You know, like there was a lot of Exodus, not Exodus. I'm sorry. There was a lot of ballads. I meant to say. There's a Exodus song called "The Ballad of Something," but no, there's a lot of ballads and a lot of Forbidden. You know, we did our thing too, but we did it in demo form when nobody was wanted to touch us with a fucking, you know. Actually, that's not true. When Twisted and Form was done, we managed to negotiate ourselves off of Combat because they wanted us to write it out real fast, and they actually let us go, which is a big coup.
Yeah.
And then we were about to sign with RCA Records after we had done a demo that had an all acoustic ballad called So Dark, which people really revere right now. They really love that. And we were in a different phase of our lives. We were kind of almost like more of a prog version of the band. And the musicianship was really good at that point. But it's like, when I look back at it, I'm like, huh, it doesn't really have much connection to thrash, but people are like, oh, I
Right.
love that. And I love
Right.
Forbidden Evil. I'm like, I see this. I don't really get this, you know. But we did it, and we were about to sign to RCA, and it was a really big record deal. And we were about to make the deal, and then Paul joined Slayer, and then we were still about to make the deal, and because it, you know, it didn't hurt Forbidden that Paul joined Slayer, and then Nirvana, Smells Like Teen Spirit broke.
Yeah.
It broke, and I'm serious. I've seen Loverboy say, yeah, Nirvana killed our career. Like, bro,
Yeah.
that wasn't Nirvana. But
Yeah.
Nirvana definitely stunted a lot of our careers, and even the glam metal careers. It's pretty well documented. But I wasn't resentful. I actually thought, man, these new bands. Nirvana wasn't my favorite of them, but they're all writing viable, relevant music that needs to fucking be out there, and it's going to change the game. So to answer your question, I actually welcomed it, where other people just fucking resented the fuck out of the grunge scene. I was like, oh, you know, they make shit better, you know, and
Yeah.
and in a way it did. It kind of brought everything around. So later, it is better than it might have been.
And in the last couple of years, you know, we've seen a lot of like the older legendary bands. I'm interested to see where you stand on this. You know, like when we see our older bands, i.e., bands like a Kiss or something like that, where they got to start using backing tracks. You know, I mean, when you go to a show, you know, do you like seeing the, you know, because I know you're just talking about it as far as the recordings, the warts and all type approach, or do you feel kind of you know, cheated to a certain extent when you go see a live band and they're piping in extra stuff, you know, in order to make the show better? I mean, are you more into the performance of seeing Kiss, or are you more into seeing like the authenticity side of it?
Kiss is a perfect example of I've seen
Yeah.
enough.
Yes. It's true. Yeah,
I saw them in
It's never
'96
going to
when
end.
I saw them in '96, and it was incredible when they
Yeah.
first came back because they had it all down and it was
Right.
raw and it was
Right.
live and it felt like it was only 20 years after fucking Kiss Alive, right?
Right. And I don't mean to pick on
So
them, but you know,
no,
obviously
it's
a
a
lot
great
of bands are
example.
doing the backing track thing, you know, but
I have the perfect. I think it's a case by case situation,
yeah.
and what I mean by that is some bands it completely fits their vibe to have a little bit of a sound collage, right?
Right.
And it what like take the Mastodon Gojira tour,
Yeah.
right? Both are incredible bands.
Right.
But Gojira runs a lot of sound collage with their sound. They run, you know, they're the guy who records their albums is also their live mixer. So there's extra everything supporting their tracks, and it
Right.
sounds great. But you know they play their asses off, and they're incredible.
Right.
And they're not cheating. They've just got some, you know, extra wind up
They're
under
beefing
their
it up a
wings.
little. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So it's a little different. And then you watch Mastodon, and it's live without a net. As good as they play or as good as they are is as good as they're going to be, and that's more forbidden and what I like. But I love both those bands, and they're two of my absolute favorites. And Mastodon being my probably favorite modern-ish. It's been over 20 years, but
Yeah.
they're modern-ish, and they're my favorite of all those bands because I feel like there's a kinship personally that I have with their style of music because it's odd and it's melodic and it takes chances and not everything sounds the same. So I'm like, that's why they'll always be my jam. You know, out of all these newer bands, you know, whatever would be considered metalcore, they were never metalcore. They're like an organic rock band
Yeah.
that plays
They are.
incredibly heavy and
Yeah.
beautiful parts. So there you go. Kudos to them for that.
And I'm glad you brought up newer bands. Like, are you one of those kind of people that you know that can lend your ear and is receptive to hearing new music? Is there still new bands and stuff that gets you excited? I mean, I'm 51 years old, and I am guilty of. And the podcast has made me a little better about doing it, especially you know early on when I was doing it. It was exciting to me to give young bands a platform or whatever, because I know it's a tough business right now or whatever. But when I got to listen to music, you know, from a fan standpoint. I'm in a time warp. I go back to my old standards and my old favorites. As much as I don't want to always do that, and I want to explore Apple Music and try to lend my ear to newer bands, do you find yourself able to, you know, you're out on the road, you probably see a lot of bands on tour, see a lot of bands at different festivals. Are you able to get into newer stuff as a fan when you have time to listen to music?
Sure. Yeah. When I have time to listen to music, I do. And I don't have a lot of time to listen to all the new music. King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard has shot up my chart because
I've seen you give them a lot of shout outs on your page. Yeah.
killer. Because again, they're doing something that I respect in taking chances and doing whatever they want and playing live without a net.
Yeah.
And you know, and that's the shit right there. Every band wishes they could be in a situation where you don't need to be told or adhere to some sort of standard that other people put you to.
Right.
You're literally just creating, and they're jumping on board to take the ride with you.
Yeah.
And that's the way I feel about Mastodon as well. And there's a few bands like that, but it's like, you know, a lot of newer bands are definitely genre based. You know, like I in the Bay Area, we have some great new bands up and coming. Neckrot, who's fucking ripping death metal band.
Love them.
Death Grave is an unbelievable death metal band from here. And then I saw, is it Bast from Denmark when we played the Rock Hard Festival with KK's Priest. They played a couple bands before us, and I thought they were incredible. So there are some really good, and I'm not using all the best examples, but I do know there's some. You know, when I say up and coming, they've been around for a few years, but it takes a few years to get off the starting blocks, right? So into people's consciousness, and I'm wide open, man. I mean, you know, if I want something to blow my mind, it rarely does. And a lot of times when it does, it's not metal, you know.
Right. In your travels, you know, obviously you've come in contact with a lot of musicians over time. You know, at the risk of sounding cheesy, for lack of a better word, you know, have there been people that you've run into where you've kind of been in awe or starstruck? Like, who is somebody that you got an opportunity to meet? You know, I mean, during your career.
All the time, but I don't really get starstruck. The only two times that I really got starstruck in my life, and that was. And we talked about Kiss, meeting Gene Simmons once,
Yeah.
I didn't really know what to say. And meeting Michael Schenker in the same elevator,
Oh yeah.
I
Yeah.
didn't really know what to say. But then after that, I've talked to Michael Schenker a few times, and my band Spiral Arms have played with him a few times.
Yeah.
So I gotta actually have conversations with Michael and broke that ice. You know, it's funny. I've met the guys in Priest like Halford and Glenn Tipton. I got to have a real conversation with him. I have a picture over here that I took when he played the Warfield,
Yeah.
and he actually stopped and talked to me and put down his Starbucks cups. And because I said, "Hey, Glenn, I saw you in 1982 at the Aladdin Theater in Las Vegas," and he already has Parkinson's, but he just looked at me and said, "Tell me about it." And then I
Yeah.
told him all about it. It's like to me, one of the greatest perks of being in music is that it is a community that where if people are non-pretentious and very open-minded and just open to listening to other people, not too jaded. Yeah, I said these words before, but they apply in different areas, right?
Right.
But if you could do that and just have normal conversations with folks, it's a fucking magical gift.
Yeah.
It really is, and it just keeps on keeping on. And I've had some great conversations with people I really look up to, and that list is so vast. Like I almost talked to KK Downing when we played that show with KK's Priest. I was walking in the bathroom as he was walking out after washing his hands before the show, and I just looked at him. And he looked at me. He's all, "Great show, mate." I'm like, we're not going to do it like this. I don't want to be in the bathroom talking to you. I'll talk to you after. And I never did, but I
Yeah.
will talk to them when they come here, and I'll make sure I get some words with KK. But yeah, these guys they're just normal people, and anytime they don't act like a normal person, it is disappointing because then they've lost the plot a little bit. Because man, we're just all breathing, eating, shitting,
Yeah.
laughing, crying, and family, whatever.
Yeah.
We're just guys that play music
I do
or
see a lot of the hero worship
gals.
online, and sometimes the hero worship does get a little sad, though. I get what you're saying, though, like where these people will just really just almost feel like celebrities, owe it to them. And you do see people in the comment section, like when a celebrity kind of like, kind of poo-poos somebody and it doesn't give them the time of day, you'll hear people say, well, I mean, we the fans are the ones that made him that. But then again, these people on the flip side of that, though, they do have a right to have their own life, though. I mean,
Yeah,
it's a very
they do.
double-edged sword, but to like approach them and just automatically think that you deserve an autograph or you deserve a picture or you deserve some of their time, I mean, is a bit presumptuous, I think.
It is, and it's a vicious circle because while it is true that other people make their career and they do things for them, I think there's a line that you have to walk as if you really want to do it right.
Yeah.
There's a respectful line that the artist and the fan need to take together. And when what you don't want to be as a fan is a punisher, right?
Right. Right.
You don't want to just ask a gazillion questions and want to try to get out everything you could possibly think of in a minute. So the person's just like, I just got off stage.
Yeah.
Like,
Bombarded.
give,
Yeah.
give me a minute.
Yeah.
And again, I'm going to go back to Mastodon because I don't think anybody handles fans and the post show and even at the end of the shows better than Braun does, because
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever seen him, but he'll go give you 5 minutes at the end of the show,
Yeah.
thanking you, going through everything every night, throwing out his sticks.
I've had
Just
Bill on.
making that connection.
I've had Bill Kelleher on. He was a great guy too.
Great
Yeah.
guy. And I don't really know Bill too well. He's funny. I don't know Bill or Troy too well. I definitely know Brent and Braun better, but I have deep, deep respect for all those guys as family men and human beings. And you can do it right. And that's why I hold them a little bit higher regard than a lot of other bands, because they've never lost a plot. They still respect their fans. They know they wouldn't do it without them.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they also, aren't going to allow you to fucking punish them because they're not going to be in that situation.
Right.
They'll be back further over here until they need to be,
Yeah.
and it's just, there's a way to do it. It's a balancing act, and sometimes it gets blurry.
Obviously, chemistry goes without saying is a big part of being in a band. I mean, for years you're looking over, you're seeing your bro, what I mean, your your right hand man, you're seeing Russ over there, now that you're looking over and seeing Norman, man, what I mean, and you're playing shows with him, man, how does it feel having him up there? Was it an adjustment period? Obviously, it probably
there was no adjustment period.
okay.
But that's not to
Seamless.
take away from Russ. That
Yeah.
As I stated earlier in this interview, Russ was going through so much, and he never really gave 100% when
Yeah.
we came back because he didn't have 100% to give.
Right.
And what I see with Norm and what I feel with Norm is fucking confidence and no arrogance. Just that's what I loved about him to begin with. I knew he could do it for maybe a year and a half before I even went for it.
Yeah.
And I just was hesitating because I would never do it without Russ. But I did get Russ's blessing, and when I see Norm in the corner of my eye, I know he's got it. I'm like, this dude's got it. He's fully invested in the moment. He's gonna hit fucking all the notes with his style, not Russ's style, but his style, and everyone else is gonna be fully invested in it too. And it's a weird spot when it's that good because you
Yeah.
just don't see people coming in and being accepted like that. That's why I used Dickinson as the example because rarely does somebody come in. It could have been Blaze Bailey, right?
Right.
Like you just and nothing against Blaze, but he stepped on the fucking bear trap. Like, there's just
Right.
nothing he could have done after Bruce.
But
But
when
Russ,
you say you got Russ's blessing, though, did you get Russ's blessing to move ahead with Forbidden, or did Russ actually get a chance to actually hear Norman doing those songs justice?
well, he's heard him now. But,
He's heard him now, right?
Yeah, but no, they got a blessing to move on.
Yeah.
He told Matt and myself if we wanted to do it without him, go for it because I can never do it again.
Yeah.
But then I reached out to him, and I was also talking to his sister, who I still talk to, who gives me more reports because Russ is trying not to stay involved and trying. But I talked to her. They live in the same city, and she sees him at least once, twice a week, and he's happy for us. She's happy for us, and it's just if he could have given his best, he would have given his best. So
Right.
instead, he literally gave us his best, meaning go do what you got to do.
Right.
Because he felt like he owed that, and he did. Honestly, he kind of owed it to me, to do that, and he said so when we had our first conversation because I put my guts into that, and he was not invested 100%. So what can you say? If you didn't give your 100%. To be a man and really man up is to say that and say go for it and take it to the next level, and that was really fucking cool of him. And I'll always love and adore Russ Anderson, and he was my mentor to start, and he had great trust he placed in me to write so many of those lyrics and melodies with him and stuff like that. So there's the relationship I have there that I'll always cherish. It was just the live relationship that was lacking because of his situation.
Now, because obviously projects change like so much. I mean, you've got Forbidden, still doing the boneless ones.
Actually, I'm not really doing the boneless ones right now because I have no fucking time.
Okay. I was just going to ask you that. Like, as you get older and you have a family and you get, as I said, I'm 51 years old. I work in healthcare by day. I'm a nurse. I've got 6 grandkids. I'm fucking tired, man. I'm wondering how you prioritize and find, like what takes precedent. How do you prioritize everything? Do you have a system or have you found a system that works for you?
Well, I made a conscious decision once Forbidden kicked off again that I wasn't going to juggle as much in the time that I'm doing this. So right now I put all the other bands aside. Dress the Dead was a tough one to put aside.
Yeah.
But there was things leading into that, because I played Mark was in Dress the Dead, who's my drummer in Forbidden. But I knew for a fact if Forbidden kicked off, I wouldn't be doing it with Mark because he quit Forbidden on the road, and that's just you just don't do that. I'm not going to re-examine that possibility, nothing against him, but it just wasn't going to happen. So I there was some weird territory there where it was there was some pushback going within that band, and it got to a point where I was getting really frustrated because I had a year set up and I was ready to go and I had things like on the table and people wanted to sign the band, and then these Forbidden offers all started popping up when I was getting frustrated because I didn't know if I wanted to dedicate another year into it without the appreciation of what I fucking do for that band. Right. And I say that with no bitterness towards them. It just everyone's got different priorities in life, as you were saying. And at the end of the day, some people can't do everything they want to do.
Right. There's only so many hours in a day. I mean,
right. So what ends up happening is with bands, a lot of times when there's somebody and it only takes one. When there's somebody that can't do what they want to do, they cause, you know, they go against the great, because subconsciously, not because they
Right.
mean to.
Right.
And that was definitely happening with us. And there was no way that all 5 of those people, including Kayla, were able to jump out and hit the road and do all the things that would have needed to be done.
Yeah.
And I just said, I'm not going to fucking waste another year on this. I'm going to take my chances with Forbidden right now. And that's what I did.
I forgot about Kayla too. What a diamond in the rough. Badass.
She's
singer.
amazing.
Yeah.
She's going to be a gigantic star one day, and I fully stand behind her. And I really appreciate my time with her. And we talked, a couple days ago. It's like, one of these days we'll get back and we'll write music together again and do some cool stuff. But she knows right now that Forbidden's my legacy, and I've got to follow it.
Yeah.
So she respects it, and so does everyone else in the band. And that's where I am. I just saw Mikey, my guitar player, in Denver a couple days ago, or 3 or 4 days ago. We hung out and talked, and it was the greatest time. I love everyone in that band immensely. They're amazing people, but I could just tell it was never going to fucking work with that lineup the way it was.
Yeah. Now, do you find it hard, because you are in the extreme metal genre? Obviously, when you're rolling the shit out for Forbidden Evil in the early albums and stuff, I mean, you're young, you're full of piss and vinegar. Is it hard to tap into that and write the aggressive stuff like now? And like, where do you summons it up from? Obviously, there's a lot of shit in the world that you can get fucking angry about always. But I mean, is it harder to tap into that and go to those places now?
Nope.
No.
It's not hard at all. In fact, that's one of the main reasons why I really wanted to jump in and write a record with Forbidden, because that was always, it's funny. People, I'm very anti-political. People take that as that I'm political, but what I am more anti than anything is the bad traits of humanity. The racism, the misogyny, the things that I just can't get behind. Religious fucking, bastardization. Hiding behind somebody else's words to be a fucking horrible person.
Yeah.
And so that has always been something that's in Forbidden Lyrics, and more than ever right now, I feel like it's very prevalent, and people have this. I take a long view of the world, and I see where people don't want to necessarily say that America could step into fascism. They're awfully close. We're painfully close, and
I agree.
And even if you don't want to take a side, you got to say the way I view things now is I can't change the world from my lane.
Right.
All right. My lane is a little bigger than some people's because I have a voice, but there'll still be no changing the world from this lane. And if a Facebook post isn't going to change the world, but what I can do is take my art and direct it towards something constructive in my little lane. Right. So I don't look at things the way I did when I was younger. Like, I can fucking help change the world, and we got to, join together and do it. Like, we should join together, but you're in a splintered humanity right now.
Yeah.
And I'm going to take more of the approach as an observer and do my best to put that this in real time, food for thought. The duality's always been a big thing for me.
Yeah.
That's what the two skulls are.
Yeah.
I can write about that kind of stuff and not necessarily take a side other than morally okay. Like, I just can't. My mom fought for women's rights her whole life, still does, and so there's just certain things I just can't get behind, and that disappoints some people. I've heard a lot of people say, you should keep your political opinions to yourself. I'm like, bro, I'm anti-political, but you don't see it that way because I don't agree with you.
Yeah. And I do agree with what you're saying about having that lane and having that voice. Then there are people that just kind of like hoist them upon us, whether we want them or not. You do see kind of people who think, because they're in a position, where the public views them as important. Like, I don't want to pick on them, but like somebody like Robert De Niro thinks because I've been in a million movies, that my political opinion should matter more and be, and be taken into account more. I hate when kind of people kind of shoehorn it in and feel like because they have that lane, they kind of have to force it down your throat,
Well, yeah.
Or it makes their opinion more important because of who they are or what they've accomplished.
That's one way to look at it. And I'm not in Robert De Niro's head necessarily, But he's
Right.
an example of somebody that will say something that is going to offend half the public, and
Right.
because he's so popular, so half the people that are aware of him are going to automatically get pissed
Right.
off at him.
Right.
And I don't have that. I don't have that many people that are into it or into what I'm saying, but I've seen this coming for a long time.
Yeah.
I used to be what you would call an avid conspiracy theorist, and I still believe a lot of things are fucking true that I thought might have been true. But what
Yeah.
I do realize is that you can't prove any of it in the internet age. It's just all algorithms, and there's a fucking story to back your belief up, and
Yeah.
you just got to kind of go with your gut. But at the same time, my gut just doesn't do racism. My gut just doesn't do sexism. My gut just doesn't do. I don't do those things.
Yeah.
People want to say it's not what it is, but you got to make a choice. Like presidents are front people, right? They're like singers for bands.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
That's a good
how do you
analogy.
want? What do you
Yeah.
want your fucking singer to be?
Yeah.
How do you want your singer to reflect outwardly to the rest of the world? Because ultimately, there's always a few families and corporations, and this is not conspiracy theories. This is just reality. There's a few families and corporations that pull all the fucking strings,
Yeah.
and that's never going to change, no matter who. So if you got this one over here or this one over here, you got to decide, how do you want to be represented?
Right.
And that's ultimately what that's turned into in this day and age. And we'll just all watch all these fucking pieces fall where they may.
What was your light bulb moment? Like, do you remember specifically, going back again in time, do you remember a specific artist or a song or an album that really resonated with you, that made you, do you remember that moment where you said, I'm being called to music?
Two moments
Okay.
specifically. One was Helter Skelter by the Beatles.
Yeah.
Because I'd never heard anything like it.
Yeah.
I didn't, heavy metal was not a term I was aware of. I probably heard it when I was like 5 years old or so. And, a few years after it was released, many years actually. But to me, I was like, what the fuck? Because I've been listening to the Beatles all these years. I never got to side 3 of fucking the White Album,
Right. Right.
And I was like, oh shit,
Right.
So like that was like, I've got to play guitar moment. And then, and the fucking funniest one of all is I was home one day with strep throat from school, and they were playing a bunch of great music on the radio, and all these songs popped up. But it was a year after Bon Scott had died, and it was 1981, and they played A Long Way to the Top If You Want to Rock and Roll.
Yeah.
And I'd never heard it before. I wasn't hip to that album then.
Yeah.
And I was like, huh. And here I am.
Yeah.
It's a long fucking way, man. And
Yeah.
I'll never get to the top, but the climb sure is rewarding if you're having fun doing it.
Yeah. Now, we talked a little bit earlier, like about the big four. Obviously, anybody that's a metal fan knows that it's Metallica and Megadeth, Slayer, and Anthrax. And I think a lot of people, mistakenly think, they're the big four, for some reason other than the fame and the acclaim and the album sales. But if you wipe them off the board, though, and you could start another big four and take them out of the equation, who would that big four be? There's so many great thrash bands out there. I don't even care if you throw yourself in there, but I mean, who would be those next four bands if we wipe those four out?
That's actually a really good question. When we did the Interthrational thing, the second one we did here in the Bay Area, we did sets of American thrash, European thrash, and then Bay Area thrash onto itself at the last set. It was like 30 something songs. And a lot of, I mean, once you started like breaking it off like that, it's so opinion oriented. I think the big four is the big four because commercially, they were the ones that are the most influential commercially and culturally.
Yeah.
So you can love what you love. I mean, I think Voivod's a really, really important band.
Yeah.
But popularity wise, they're very obscure. Because they were just so much smarter, and they're just more clever than the public.
Yeah.
So those who know, they're like, I fucking love that band. My favorite fucking band. Like one of my favorite, if not my favorite, of thrash metal bands. But I mean, Merciful Fate's a big one for me.
Yeah.
They really, really influenced everybody. Motorhead, another one, huge influence on me. And you can't discount what Exodus and Metallica and Anthrax and Slayer have done. They're all super important. But yeah, as far as those mega influential bands, People would say Creator. I love Creator, but I was more of a destruction guy in the early days. You know,
Yeah.
they didn't have the success back then, but
Yeah,
these are all just opinions.
Germany's got their own big four.
They do. And
Yeah.
Tankard, who hardly anyone listens to out here, is part of that. You know,
Yeah.
they're really important to them. So but I mean, it's not just thrash metal. It's all metal. And I don't think Merciful Fate was thrash metal at all. I think they were very classy.
Yeah.
More influenced by Pat Travers and fucking than thrash metal or whatever. But yeah, that my answer is that you can make your own big four, but there's only one that's commercially viable and has that level. I mean, Sepultura is a band.
Yeah.
Pantera is a band. All these
Yeah.
bands are really influential, but nobody was as influential on those two bands as those four bands.
And it's very infuriating because I think for all the doors that they've kicked down, though, man, Metallica still to this day, at least what I see on social media, is still one of those bands. And I think that them coming before you, obviously, like you would even certainly give them their flowers and say how influential they are. But yet, to me, it's so puzzling. And maybe it's because of the choices that they made over the course of their career. But I guess, you get people that are stuck in their own head and they just want them to keep making Master of Puppets over and over and over again. But they're just one of those bands that are shit on so bad. And I hate to see it because, they have I have a soft spot for them. They were the first band I ever saw in concert. They were, like a lot of people my age, they were my gateway into, extreme metal music or whatever. But they're such a polarizing band.
They're very polarizing, and that's a compliment and a testament to them.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't think they're losing any sleep over it anymore. There might have been a time. I think when they were having their infighting and there's some kind of monster era, they probably were questioning themselves a lot more. After Jason left and whatnot. But I think at this point, they literally are in their own rarefied air. For lack of a better term, they're smelling their own farts and they don't care about ours.
Yeah.
So they're fine. You don't have to worry about Metallica. Their feelings are stronger, and are more resilient than most people on Earth because they've been through so much shit and they're worth about $1 billion collectively. So I've got massive respect for the franchise of Metallica. And album to album, it's a different scale altogether. I mean, my favorite Metallica album is still Ride the Lightning, and it's not their best.
Yeah,
I know it's not their best. That would be Master of Puppets, but it's my favorite.
Right.
Just like Slayer. Slayer's best album is Rain and Blood, but Hell Awaits is still my favorite.
Yeah. Everyone's good. Yeah, and I think everyone's always going to have those albums that are near and dear to them. So I'm glad you brought that up. So what's that album for you? Like, what's that album that you can pop on all the time, man, that always brings a smile to your face? Okay, it doesn't even got to be necessarily metal. Is there a specific album?
I look over to I got about 800 records right there. And, there's different moods and different feelings for different things. I tend to throw on it's not metal, but I tend to throw on Breakfast in America by Supertramp a lot.
Yeah,
a lot.
So you've got a very eclectic taste then.
Oh, totally. Voivod's Outer Limits, I throw that on a lot. I just have this endless Aerosmith. Get Your Wings. I throw that on a lot. Power Rage by AC/DC. Throw that on a lot. My favorite AC/DC record. Is their best? No, but it's my favorite.
Yeah.
So I've got this kind of like, what connects to me. The Killers, Maiden, throw it on a lot.
Yeah.
Judas Priest, Screaming for Vengeance, or Stained Class, throw them on a lot. It's just kind of whatever I'm feeling. The Kiss, I'll throw on. My favorite album to throw on by them is probably Dress to Kill. I love that.
Have you given any thought to, because we were talking about Kiss earlier and like how, and then obviously we just saw, like news that Aerosmith is kind of being, kind of forced into retirement because of health issues or whatever. Have you yourself thought, do you have that attitude like, I'm going to do this till the wheels fall off? Or have you thought of a definitive time when you would actually step away from music? Or like, you get some of these people that say, I don't want to still be jumping up on stage when I'm 70 years old. But then you see guys like the Rolling Stones who are still doing it and kicking a lot of ass. Have you ever thought of a definitive time where like, I don't want to be doing this anymore? Or do you think music will just be one of those, I'll do it until I can't do it ever?
Yeah, Father Time will tell me.
Yeah,
But I can say, like, we're in uncharted territory with bands like Metallica
yeah,
and Anthrax and Slayer, and what's the other big four there? Metallica, Anthrax, Slayer, and Megadeth. Like
yeah,
they're all in their 60s, each and every one of them. And I got another 5 or 6 years till I get there.
yeah,
But still, yeah, time will tell me. Like my body's, you know, like right now, I'm pretty healthy. I'm probably healthier than I was 15, 20 years ago.
yeah,
I take better care of myself. But there's some point where, your joints are just going to say, oh, this is fucking brutal. And I know Gary Holt really wrestles with his arm and his wrist and his pick. He had like surgery
yeah,
to fix a lot of shit. Paul Bostaff, before he got back in Testament, um, or actually it was after, maybe it was after he was in Testament, he had the giant something on his arm, and it turned
yeah,
out to be tendons and calcium and all kinds of shit. People were calling him out saying, he's not really hurting. Like, fuck yeah, he was hurting. So he had to have
yeah,
surgery. So, luckily, knock on wood, this is a real wood table. I'm relatively healthy, and I feel blessed, I guess. But I mean, I feel pretty fortunate to be still healthy and doing it. So I don't have a timeline set yet. I just started again, right? It's been a year.
yeah,
Forbidden's been around for just over a year,
yeah,
and things are quite honestly better than they were at any point maybe ever, because I feel like everyone's on the same page in this. It's kind of hard to believe over the original or the Twisted and Reform lineup, but there was always childish, including myself, things getting in between the music and holding shit back. And to have grown men that are all on the same page and thankful and moving forward, it's a fucking amazing feeling.
Well, I think I picked up on, and correct me if I'm wrong, but earlier you kind of alluded to the fact that you're writing songs or whatever. So I'm assuming that, because you wanted to keep it, old school, at least, from a sound perspective, I'm assuming that this will be a full length album, because we did see around COVID time, people getting very happy with putting out singles or EPs. And it seems like, obviously, it's no secret that that the public's attention span has dwindled. There, I read somewhere that there's 30,000 new songs flooding the streaming platforms every day. So it seems like there's such a saturation of music out there. I mean, and everybody vying for everybody's ear, and there's only so many hours in the day. Have you thought about the format? Will it be a fully realized album?
It eventually will be, but it's funny you said that, because two things. Stylistically, let's just go over that, which you didn't get into. I'm definitely writing a cross between Twisted in a Form and Omega Wave in stylistic.
Okay.
And everything, a lot of the songs are going to be tuned to E, which bands, all of our other peers that are actually at our level, don't do that.
Yeah.
Everyone's tuned down a bit because either vocally or guitar wise, it just their ears have tuned down lower. And I kind of had to retrain my ear to go, I like the bounciness of things being in E. There's an excitement that was there in the 80s that I'm more than happy to help bring back right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's that, but I'll also do different tunings. But I think it's good to have variety, so your album kind of has peaks and valleys. And then as far as the format goes, I've got a pretty specific plan, and I don't mind sharing it to a certain degree. We're going to release our own music first. We're going to release a couple songs on our own because we can, and because we know there's tens of thousands, if not 100,000 or more people that would want to hear it.
Yeah.
So we're in a position to be free agents, and I like it.
Yeah.
I probably like it better than I ever have because of the strength of the band that we have. So I feel like, yeah, I want to roll the dice on a couple songs and finish writing the record while those are out there rumbling, and I want to have the record done and recorded before the summer starts. So when we hit the next festival run in this upcoming summer, music will be in the can, and we can start getting ready to promote the album and have a home for the record. We could easily do it ourselves and control all the flow and pay for all the promotion. And in today's world, it's like that almost makes a lot of sense,
Yeah.
Or we could give it to somebody else that's got a team that'll be out there to push it, and then we see nothing on return from it, but we have a big push.
Right.
So there's your choices, right? It goes back to what we were saying earlier. It's a different world. You have to look at things way differently. If you try to do it the same way it was because that's what you knew, you are trying to jam a square peg in a round hole, and you're a fucking dinosaur. So you got to really look at the world differently.
Well, I'm glad you're saying though, experimenting with the different tunings and like having it have that bounce to it though. Do you feel like as a guy that's played extreme metal music, and I've asked this question of other guys I've had on here, obviously, when I was young, I remember me and my friends always wanting to find like the next heaviest thing, heavier. How heavy can music go? How heavy can music go? But then as I've gotten older, I've realized that I still like my heavy music, but I really appreciate melody. Some of this stuff is really just like a wall of sound. Do you think, the music can almost be too heavy for its own good and it ceases to be enjoyable if it lacks some type of melody?
Well, for me and you, yeah. I mean, for
Yeah.
somebody else that doesn't know any better, and that's what they like, and that's what they've been trained to like, and think they like,
Yeah.
then more power to them if that's how they see it. You know what I mean? Like, it's okay if you like a wall of sound. There's a lot of bands out there that are just fucking punishing,
Obnoxiously heavy. Yeah.
obnoxiously heavy, and it's totally cool. There's a mood
Yeah.
for that, but I can't get into my car and go to the grocery store always with just being punished.
Yeah.
I need a little melody in my life, and Forbidden's always had melody, and even
Yeah.
on Omega Wave, which is some really crushing songs, there's always that juxtapose of really melodic vocals or really melodic guitar parts. It's going to be the way it is, and that's what we are. And I think if anybody has something to look forward to, it's the fact that this is going to be a very Forbidden record. And yeah, what can I say? I mean, I'm confident in the shit I've written so far, so we'll see
over
where
all
it all
the
lands.
years over all the years of you doing this, from the time you started to now, like what do you think is the biggest pearl of wisdom that you've learned in the music business overall this time? I mean, you're making a lot of great points about maybe doing it independently, maybe being master of your own domain. You know what I mean? Like you seem to have such a great grasp on it because you've been down this road. You've done this for a career. You know what I mean? But that one takeaway, man, that one thing that you've really been hip to over the years.
Well, I mean, you got to fail to fucking learn. It's like it's Frankenstein and fucking fire bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like you got to learn some shit along the way, and walk on glass, whatever kind of cliche or example you want to use. You have to make the mistakes or listen to someone who's made them, i.e., guys like me,
Yeah.
and learn something. It's funny. I think Chris would say, what's that line he likes to use? Oh yeah, Cliff Burton and Cliff Amal. What do you have? What advice do you give young kids that want to come up with music? Yeah, quit. Don't. I think that's a little bitter. The Cliff was halfway kidding, and he was about on the brink of being in the most famous band in the world.
Yeah.
But there is some wisdom in that, because if you don't have something real special, whatever it may be, it could be special. You don't have to have mega talent on the instrument to be
Right.
mega talented in your genre or have your niche. It's okay. You don't. Everyone's different. Yeah, I mean, I really the old adage, follow your gut, is really the best thing you could tell anybody.
Yeah.
Like, follow your gut. People could ask me that are making demos that aren't even, the songs aren't even done. So what should we do for a label? How do you think we should market this? I'm like, finish your fucking songs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Finish your songs. You can't put the cart before the horse.
Yeah.
You got to have something. It's like having a band name with no music.
Right.
Like, that band name might sound great or it might sound stupid, but it only becomes real once there's music. And then bands like the Foo Fighters don't sound as dumb with their name once there's
Right.
music in there and you're fucking associating it.
Right.
There's a thread that happens in your subconscious where you finally get it. Right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, like whatever it may be. So you gotta put the pedal to the metal, even if it's not metal, and you gotta finish your music and make it so you love it. And if you love it, then someone else will love it. And if you want it to be highly successful, that's probably not going to happen. And you got to know that. And you got to know that you probably isn't going to be any money in it. And you just do it because you love it. And if we didn't have that attitude, I wouldn't be sitting here talking about Forbidden right now. Although
Right.
we can make some money, and we don't lose money, but we're not making a lot of money yet, and we might never make a lot of money. But the art is the most important thing.
And so what are you at liberty to reveal then, as far as like a timetable on like when you would expect new Forbidden music? Obviously, probably sometime 2025. We're looking at.
Yeah, it'll be the end of 2025. And
Okay.
they used to say you can't release an album around Christmas. Why?
Yeah.
No one's buying them anyway.
Yeah.
It doesn't
Right.
fucking matter.
Right.
You build a some sort of timeline. You promote in that timeline, and then if it's good, people are gonna fucking find it, and they're gonna be all about it because they're excited for it. If it's not good and you haven't done any work to fucking build it up, of course it's gonna get lost in obscurity, and it won't matter if it's fucking Thanksgiving, Christmas, Easter. Doesn't matter. It's you got to build something really good and get people excited.
Yeah. So to review here, if you're in your small market towns, you have zero chance of seeing Forbidden. Get to a fucking festival.
For now.
Yeah.
For now.
Right, for now.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, we haven't even played LA yet. You know,
Yeah.
we've just so people understand, we haven't played LA, Chicago, New York. We played festivals in Seattle, Maryland. We had our own here, and we played House Heroes in Texas. And that's the extent of we have our own Omega Fest here, and that's the extent of what we've done in the United States besides our San Francisco shows with Death Angel. And promoters out here are really don't want to pay you what you're worth.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
just getting in a van and driving somewhere, or getting on a plane and going somewhere, and they're not even having all your gear that you need, and they're telling you it's all there and it's not there. We're not going to do that.
Yeah.
We're just not going to do that. If you want this band to continue to make great music, you got to give us our space so we can afford to do what we do. And then when we get there, you better fucking come, and you better buy a fucking shirt.
Yeah.
And you better download the record directly from fucking iTunes or Spotify or whatever the fuck it is. You got to do your part to help keep the art and the dream alive.
Yeah.
Otherwise you're just sitting there being like two judges on the Muppet Show.
Yeah.
People
don't realize. Yeah, people don't realize. Go out, buy the albums, man, and go out and buy the merch. You know what I mean? Like, this is not one of those things like where there's like a guaranteed paycheck at the end of this for you guys always, No,
there isn't. Nothing's a guarantee.
Right.
Even the guarantees aren't always guaranteed.
Right.
Like guaranteed contracts for athletes. Yeah, unless we cut you.
Yeah.
If we cut you, you're not going to make all that money.
Right.
So, yeah, so it's just it's a very tenuous, crazy world, and I think that spells really good time for Forbidden music.
Yeah.
And however that translates to other people, I think at the beginning of this next year when we release a couple songs, people will definitely see what direction we're heading in. We'll finish in that direction and have a lot more surprises behind that door. It's going to be very surprising music.
I would be very remiss if I didn't at some point in this episode, bring up a mutual acquaintance. You and I both know Ray Curry. Outlier.
Oh yeah, Outlier. Ray's great.
That's my buddy. That's my
I love one of the best dudes right there.
I just went down and saw my in-laws back in May down in North Carolina, so I got to get up with him and hang out with him. And it was really cool, man, because and shout out to Ray because he put together a little band practice, which was literally like going to see like a little mini concert because they didn't have anything lined up during the week that I was down there. So, but yeah, I went to high school with him, man. Yeah, he's an old friend from way back, man. One of the good ones.
Very good ones. He was great. When we did the Killian on Command, he came out to watch the show.
Yeah.
And then I'd handed him a microphone. I said, "You're going to be the leader of the background vocals."
Yeah. But you don't know, man, like when we were in high school, man, like you don't know what that band meant to him, man. Violence was, he was all about violence back in the day, man. And he was pretty resourceful, man. I remember his first connection, man, actually getting Rob Flynn on the phone, man, was just calling Debbie Abono's office, man. And I think he even lied and said that he had a fanzine. I don't know, but he's always been really good at marketing, even in the pre-internet age, though. He's always hustled and grinded. And, I remember him like, getting opening for some great bands when he was like 15 or 16 years old out here. Just getting on great bills just by calling up these, these little, dive bars and just being like aggressive, and just,
He gets it, man. He gets it. And as far as my circle of friends and the people I like to hang out with, I like to hang out with pure intention people that we call them our Forbidden family, and I would consider Ray part of that. I would consider him somebody that I would invite to a barbecue and sit down and have a good laugh with. I really like Ray.
And now we'll see how well this ages, man, because we can go back and play this come January, man. Give me what the final record for the 49ers will be this year.
I'm not doing that. I do know.
Really in, huh?
No, I don't do that. I don't do that every year. I think that's
Okay.
I play fantasy football, and that's enough risky shit for my.
That's speculative. Yeah.
Let me just tell you how I feel about all this. Okay.
Okay.
In a nutshell, I have a more pragmatic view of fucking football than I used to, because I have been going since 1984. I've had season tickets since 1994. I've started the year we won the Super Bowl, and I've been chasing the dragon ever since. People say you're a failure if you don't win. That's just what fans of teams that don't win say.
Yeah.
You know, oh yeah, okay. I've had joy,
no doubt.
sorrow. I've had a lot of sorrow, but I've had way more years of joy, and the kinship and camaraderie of my tailgates that I have with my friends. We have one of the biggest tailgates in the entire parking lot, with the third railers that go back to Candlestick and Kezar. So to me, it's like, it's all a gift, and it helps take my focus away from other fucked up things in the world that I look at most days of the week. So I look at it like, if we don't win it all, I'm cool, man. I've had a good time. They're working their asses off. Those are real men, trying to fight for their sporting lives. And I'm just, here, I'm watching the gladiators. I'm just a dude happy to be there watching it at this point. And I
think that too. I think that too. Being a Giants fan, man, I've gotten to see so far in my life watching football. I've gotten to see them in 4 Super Bowls. Got to see them win 3. That's a lot more than a lot of teams get to say. A lot of fans get to say.
Yeah, it is. And the Giants have a pretty storied history. And they beat the 49ers in that championship game when that guy fumbled the ball right into your hands.
I was
there for that, by the way.
I got to see Eli beat Tom Brady twice. That was pretty satisfying.
I was happy with that too.
Yeah, very satisfying. So are you one of those? So are you one of those guys? If your team doesn't make it, though, like, you will pull for the NFC though in the Super Bowl? No,
it depends. I mean, it depends who they're playing. I mean, I have my hierarchy of teams I really dislike. There's nobody I dislike more than the Dallas Cowboys.
Me too.
So I'll never root for them under any circumstance.
I'll concur with that.
But I will root for them when I have Dak Prescott in my fantasy team or something like that. Like,
kind of have to. That's that conflict of interest that fantasy football provides.
So much,
Yeah. Listen, man, I really appreciate all the time, man. It's been great talking to you, dude. Definitely stay in touch. I'd love to do this again, man. I knew this was going to be a blast talking to you, man, and it was, man. I enjoyed it, man.
Real quick, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about your boxing show. I want to know about that. I've seen a lot of good boxing.
Well, I'm actually in a transition, and I just had a guy last night from a great band down in South Carolina called Demiser. Very much in the vein of Old Venom and Motorhead. And it was my first one back because I did 175 episodes before of Pod Scum. That was the one where I had Steve on and I had Norman on or whatever. And that one was really fun. That was a lot of just musicians, and I even had Ray on for an episode. Then me and my son got into our big passion is boxing. So we got into the boxing. I don't even have the new backdrop yet. It's still the boxing backdrop. You know what I mean? He's got 4 kids and family responsibilities. It got increasingly hard for him to continue to do it. And that was kind of like our niche, because we were really the only father-son, boxing podcast. So it was a nice dynamic, because I'm 51, he's 29. So, it was very entertaining. And but the episodes are still up there. You know what I mean? I think we did 160 of those.
Wow, that's pretty cool. I can't even imagine talking about new boxing, because it's just so shitty.
It's horrible.
Like, you can't. You have to go back.
You're still seeing awful scoring. You're still seeing, I think some of the problems are, there's a lot of people that can walk around in every weight with a belt. Too many championship belts, a lot of weight classes. You don't see the best fights get made. It seems like the advent of technology has made it where these guys are very satisfied just arguing on fucking Twitter about who would win, but not actually making great fights. You know what I mean? Like, back in the heyday, man, like, you would just see the best one to fight the best. It was like Jordan. Jordan didn't want to form these super teams. He wanted to play against all those fucking great players.
Right. I'm as a boxing fan from way back, who used to watch the shit in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah.
Like, it really kind of died in the 90s. Like, the really great boxing died in the 90s. It kind of all fell apart. I mean, you can't blame it on this moment, but when Tyson bit Holyfield's ear, that was kind of the end of it.
Yeah.
It's just that you could draw a line right there, like,
Yeah.
yeah, okay. I mean, it wasn't even that moment because that was amazing. Because they're like,
Yeah.
wow, that's great. But it's like it's like Fonzie jumping the shark. It's
Yeah.
just like, what do you do after that?
Yeah.
What? It's all just now. No one even cares. Like they don't even. I don't know
And
who
you're
the
trying to
fuck's
drag people,
boxing.
and you're trying to drag people to the sport, and you're trying to compete with UFC, man. And like, obviously a lot of different things go in UFC. In boxing, you can only punch the guy. You could see a lot more different forms of violence in UFC, man. But boxing, just again, it's getting back to the good fights aren't getting made. There's a lot of arguing on Twitter. You know what I mean? And but people are able to skirt around their mandatories sometimes. You know what I mean? Like they don't necessarily make the one guy fight the two guy. There's ways to circumvent all that with the alphabet organizations. It's always been one of the dirtier sports. There's a lot of politics and a lot of
I was going to say it's a lot of what you said's always been the way it's been, and it's hard
dirty.
To get jump over somebody to get to somebody else when there's somebody else blocking you to getting there.
And then there's still awful scoring, man. You know what I mean? Like there's still like where you have to think some judge was in someone's back pocket. And of course, all this is alleged or whatever. But when you see like a really close fight, and then you see some judge turn in a scorecard of like 118 to 110, and you're like, what the fuck were you watching? You know what I mean? Like, are you kidding me? You know what I mean? Like, I mean, you got to think there's fucking shenanigans afoot. I mean,
We got that in football because did you see how one team had no holding calls?
Yes,
and it wasn't this team.
I know.
So we got that in football, and you kind of have to suck it up and just go, fuck, I hope they don't do that on purpose.
It is tough to watch the NFL now because it is a little bit more of a watered-down product, though. I mean, now it's getting to the point where it's practically like a fucking flag football or touch football. I mean, you can barely do anything to anybody anymore.
Well, there's still going to be people getting concussions and breaking limbs and blowing knees. It's you get the fastest men in the world running or up against the strongest, most powerful men in the world. There's going to be collisions, and nothing they can do to stop it.
Yeah.
So thank goodness for the violent collision of football.
I mean, I've been waiting. I've been wondering when New York is going to run Daniel Jones out of town, man. But it doesn't seem like it's this year either, man. I mean, I don't know. I don't know like what we see in him or why we keep on bringing him back or whatever, man. But someone just put a great video the other day of him when he was at the 10-yard line. And he ran the ball, and he had open field in front of him, man. And he tripped at the 10-yard line, man. But and
I remember that.
Yeah, man. And someone put up there. This is a synopsis right here of what Daniel Jones' time with the Giants has been like right here. Nobody in front of him, and just falls flat on his fucking face.
I feel bad for the guy, but obviously he doesn't have it.
He doesn't have. Yeah, he doesn't have.
And that's what the only thing I could say about Purdy is he has it. And no one can figure out how to stop it or why he has it.
Right. I'm not even sure that Eli. I'm not even sure that Eli had it, but he had it when it mattered most, like in the playoffs and in fourth quarter drives. You know, what I mean, he was able to pull fucking. He was able to capture lightning in a bottle. You know, I mean.
Yeah, he's good when it counted.
I mean, but you've seen some great players though in your time. I mean, you've been spoiled with the likes of Ronnie Lott and Jerry Rice and Joe Montana and Roger Craig. You know, I mean, like you've had some fucking great teams.
I've been there and I've seen them all. I saw Joe Montana play. I saw Ronnie Lott and Roger Craig and Jerry Rice and John Taylor and everybody else. I've seen in my 30 years, I've seen players get drafted that are now in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. My view on sports. That's why you like give me a score, give me a this, give me that. Like my view is like I'm just gonna enjoy it, dude.
Yeah.
If we have a bad week, I don't like, oh man, we're fucked for the year because I've seen it happen each year. We lose to somebody and then everyone's, oh, you're fucked. I'm like, no, we're not fucked because our team's got serious resilience with leadership that runs thick, and that leadership ain't going anywhere. That's all signed for years. This version's going to be there for a long time.
I did a couple of times the Giants won those Super Bowls, man. I think they barely fucking slid in by the seat of their pants. I mean, well, one of those years, I think they were like 9-7. You never really know, It's really who starts playing football, the best football at the right time.
Exactly.
It's almost like the postseason is almost its own season. You know what I mean? Like you could have a shitty, you know what I mean? Like we went in against the Patriots that year, and that was the year they went 15-1. They almost went undefeated or whatever. You know what I mean?
No, they were 16-0 and only lost the one game to you guys. They went 16, 17, 18. They would have been 19-0, but they went 18-1.
And like we were hitting our stride right when we went into the playoffs. You know what I mean? Like so that's when we started to really step it up, and that's when it matters the most.
Well, it all starts this week for us, and we start on Monday Night Football against the Jets here. I'll be at the game, and then I get home, and I got to wake up at 4 a.m. and take a plane to New Hampshire with my wife and have a real vacation.
A real vacation.
Real vacation.
Real vacation out on the East Coast, huh?
Yeah. No, my family's had like a little cottage on Squam Lake forever.
Oh,
It's
okay. Okay.
beautiful little place. It's not big, but it's quiet and nobody can bother you there. So we like that.
Yeah. That sounds nice. That sounds nice. But listen, Craig, this was a lot of fun. We'll definitely do this again for sure, man. Best of luck with everything going forward, man. Safe travels on the vacation, man. Looking forward to New Forbidden, man. Big time, man.
Thanks, brother. Yeah, I had fun too. Thanks for asking some good questions and making me think a little bit.
Yeah, I appreciate it, brother. Thank you so much. Good talking to you, my man. We'll do it again. All right.
Take care.
Later,
Bye.
man. There he goes, folks. The one, the only Craig LoCicero. You know him from bands like Dress the Dead, the Boneless Ones. If you're a metal fan, you really fucking know him from the legendary Bay Area thrash metal band Forbidden, who is fucking back. If you tuned into PodScum the first time around, I had Steve Smythe on. I had their new vocalist, Norman Skinner, who has stepped in to take the place of, and I don't know if anybody really takes the place of Russ Anderson, just a monster of a front man. But Norman has the chops, man, and from what I see online, man, doing a fucking hell of a fucking job, man. So Forbidden is in good fucking hands, man. And right there, you just got all your fucking Forbidden news right there from the man himself, man. The backbone of the band right there, man. You know, certainly no disrespect to the other members, man, but Ben Craig's band for the longest, man. Craig and Russ's band, man. And I'm so glad they're fucking back, man. And apologies for the technical errors at the beginning, but man, I'm 51 years old. I don't give a fuck. I don't edit anything. So if you want to get to where I talk to Craig, scroll ahead and fucking figure it out, man. I don't know what you want from me, man. As you guys know, I'm technically deficient, so I don't know how to do this fucking shit, and damned if I'm gonna fucking learn it now for you people. So scroll ahead, man. Plenty of good meaty content in there. Once me and Craig get through our fucking hey, you got bad reception, let me move around. Whoops, got bumped off. Oh, I'm gonna go out and come back in again. Yeah, yada yada. We did all that fucking shit, man. And then we got into a hell of a fucking good conversation, man. So fucking I hope you guys enjoyed that, man. From the man himself, all your Forbidden news right there in a fucking nutshell. Thanks so much, Craig LoCicero. An honor. That's a thrash metal fucking legend right there. Seminal albums, as I said back in the day, 1988's Forbidden Evil, a fucking thrash masterpiece, a thrashterpiece, if you will. 1990s Twisted into Form. You guys know the fucking catalog, man. Go back and check those fucking albums out and be looking out for new Forbidden music in 2025. You heard it from the man himself, man. And lots of surprises, man. A new revitalized Forbidden lineup. Even the Freddie Mercury puppet back there, man. His fucking teeth are fucking chattering with excitement. And that's a lot of fucking teeth. So thank you so much, Craig LoCicero. Really appreciate you guys fucking tuning in. Thanks for tuning in to another great episode of PodScum. And remember how I close this thing out by reminding all of you guys out there to take it easy and keep it sleazy.